joined SaaStock a little while ago and are part of their founder circles. It's been absolutely brilliant for us. We first came into it to further our community, our reach, our network, and to learn from some of the world-class speakers that SaaStock has come and speak. And I have to say, it has been absolutely superb for us.
Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. Meiran Galis, co-founder and CEO of Scytale. Welcome, Meiran.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on the podcast. It looks like you've got a great office there. Where are you dialing in from?
Right now, I'm in the center of Tel Aviv, Israel. It's a sunny day outside, so I wish you could see the view, but it's really very nice today.
Very, very cool. Is it not always a sunny day in Tel Aviv, or have I got that wrong?
Yeah, it used to be, but actually this month it was pretty cold over here. But yeah, it's a sunny place. Israel is a very sunny place. We love the sun, the heat, so pretty warm over here.
Yeah, and a great SaaS hub as well. I think I saw, a couple of years ago, maybe a report from Excel that was saying London, Paris, and Tel Aviv were kind of the main hubs, sort of, in Europe and sort of the Middle East sort of area. So a lot of great companies, coming out of Tel Aviv as well.
That's
which is
true.
good. Yeah. Well, good stuff. And I think, like I mentioned as well before we were recording, I've been to Tel Aviv once when we did SaaStock on tour. I want to say 2018, but I can't be 100%. But we had a great time and a lot of great food, good weather, met some great people as well. So that was good fun. In fact, we had one of the co-founders of Gong speak at our event back when they were probably nobody heard of them. I think in 2018.
Oh wow,
that's not so long ago. If you look at them now, they're a huge unicorn right now, and I'm sure we had some others on as well. But I remember the Gong co-founder there. But back to present day and to the podcast. Meiran, tell us a little bit about you as a person, to kind of kick off the podcast. Who is Meiran Galis?
Yeah, interesting question. Meiran Galis, is just a regular guy from Tel Aviv. I'm very friendly, very curious for nature. Usually I tend to find what I love in everything I do. And maybe this is why I'm also doing compliance, which can be very boring for some people. But just the path of my life took me over there, and that's how I got over here. I think very, very in general, after I released from the army is mandatory over here in Israel. Just travel the world, start my bachelor degree in science, and start my path at EY in the technology risk department. I audited, consulted mainly SaaS companies, technology companies based in Israel and in the United States. And after doing this for more than 100 companies, I thought that there is something that could be done better. And this is in a very briefly about myself.
Very, very cool. And so I guess, as you're saying, from your time at Ernst & Young, working with these 100 SaaS and technology companies, from that, you've gotten the idea of, how to improve something, how to improve processes around doing compliance and, taking that and, created Scytale. But tell us a bit more in depth in terms of the founding story. Apart from getting the idea, how did you actually, found the company, meet the co-founders? What did that kind of journey look like? Any obstacles and challenges that you kind of had to overcome in that initial period?
Yeah, sure. So I started my journey in 2018. I was a junior working at Ernst & Young EY. That was my first start with SaaS companies. And I had to learn very quickly technology after my bachelor degree. But what actually works in startups, like tools, architectures, methodologies, information security, and etc. And that was the beginning of my journey. I got to meet great people, mainly chief technology officers and chief information security officers in companies. And after doing this time after time, I really get an in-depth, very comprehensive understanding about companies' posture, culture, procedures, policies, and what works and what doesn't work for them. And compliance, it's no one really like compliance. Maybe it might be funny, but when I come to audit, when I was come to audit companies, it was a very stressful situation. It's complex, it's time consuming. They need to prove their effectiveness of controls over a period of time, and spending lots of time. It might be also hundreds of hours that they need to spend on compliance instead of building a product, building the architecture, making sales. And I just experienced from first touch the frustration those people had. In managing everything, it's very complex. You need to understand that companies actually need to collect hundreds of pieces of evidence. They need to do to check and implement procedures monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, and manage this throughout the year. It's very, very challenging. So with this perspective, after speaking with many people from the industry, and after being an auditor myself, I know the auditor work, building all of these work papers, controls, testing procedures internally, producing the final report. In a nutshell, I was doing mainly managing SOC 2 reports. SOC 2 is a standard that is very familiar in the United States market. SaaS companies with a B2B model that has business activity in the United States most likely will need SOC 2. This is the gold standard for SaaS companies making business and enabling and boosting sales in the US market. Now, because many companies based in Israel aiming for the US market, it became very super relevant, actually. So we had a 10-time growth over a period of 3 years. And with this perspective that this is a very growing, highly growing market, big companies and enterprises migrating to the cloud, startups and new companies already establish all the infrastructure in the cloud. So it was very exponential growth with the demand, and also it's time consuming. It's taking companies from focusing on product development, on sales, on hiring and funding, to do something that might be not in the best of their interest to spend those hours on. So with this perspective, I established Scytale AI. And the beginning, it was myself. I was designing the product documentation and the infrastructure and architecture. Afterwards, I recruited a CTO. It took me 3.5 months to find this guy. He was from the best technology unit in the Israeli army. He was already a team lead in another startup, so I pulled him in. I brought another product manager also worked in my team at EY, and she's great. And also I find another very, very talented person. Her name is Adar, and she was the director of customer success. She was actually escorting those companies. And that was the first team in which we established the company. And I also partnerized with our investors based in the UK, South Africa. Basically, it's a big RegTech compliance group. And because we are doing security compliance, I guess it was good fit within their portfolio. So this is how we start.
Awesome. And can you share a bit of data on the business too, like where you mentioned this is the first team. How many people are you now? Are you bootstrapped or have you raised venture capital? I think you mentioned investors there. Any other metrics that you can share around your kind of growth over the last year or so?
Yeah, sure. So like we established at the December 2020. I was all by myself. In 24th of March 2021, the second employee of the company and the CTO joined the company. And since then, we grew intensively. We raised money, and we brought more than 50 customers so far, in which we are scouting for the security compliance that can be SOC 2, ISO 27001, and other kind of security certifications. We're growing very, very fast. And these days, in keeping improving the product, we are about to be 35 people in the company, spread through Israel and South Africa, Johannesburg, South Africa, and Europe, and also the US. So this is our current focus, and we keep expanding. Personally, I very believe in globalization and remote work. So we try to find unique people from different culture, because diversity is something that I think is very important in the company.
How did you find, so you got 50 customers, how did you find that first paying customer that wasn't like the contact of the investor, or, you know, I don't know, some sort of friends or something like that?
Yeah, you know, so the first one actually was someone that heard that I left EY. I was auditing his company in the beginning a while back, and he just asked me if today I no longer work in EY, maybe I can assist on their side. And that was great, because I knew the auditor side, I knew their frustration, but I get the opportunity into doing this at first hand by myself. And I understand how working with Excel, creating basically 80 folders, harnessing stakeholders within the company. I learned a lot from this process, and we also implement everything in the product. Now, you know, it just was like a snowball. Second customer actually tried to pull me to be the director of compliance in his company. And so we met. I told him about my venture, and then I showed him maybe he can just be another customer, and he will get very personalized support, and he go with it. And that was the second customer. And then, you know, just people was friends. It was a satisfied customer that recommended for their friends. It was previous people that I met at EY, and they had their own friends establishing new ventures and startups. So they showed them, look, there is a guy, he's a very good in SOC 2 and security compliance for startups. You definitely should speak with him. And then it just grow. Actually, in the first year, and by February, we didn't invest any money on sales or marketing, none. It was everything basically just on connections and people that organically came to our websites.
Very cool, very cool. And so you mentioned, I think so, like earlier, about like if a Israeli company is going to the US, which is the typical path. Sometimes I think Israel kind of skips Europe and goes straight to the US when they're looking to kind of, you know, scale internationally. But you're saying that they need this SOC 2 compliance to be able to sell in the US. And what about in Europe? I mean, I'm a kind of compliance newbie, right? So you can give me the book Compliance for Dummies, and you know, hopefully I'll understand that. But like, why should a SaaS startup, like let's say in Europe, need to look at compliance? Does every SaaS startup need to think about compliance, or, you know, have some sort of compliance?
Absolutely, yes. It didn't used to be like that 10 years ago. 10 years ago, compliance was a thing that only corporates and big company had to do, and startup just went below the radar. But today, in the new world, which cloud adoption is only growing, and your customers' data is actually your customers' customer data, and your vendors that holding your data actually spreading this data to his vendors. And, you know, it's like a big chain, and the thing of building trust in this endless technology-based world, this is something that people think, and just kind of security certification, I will split it out, because you have all the privacy regulation. For example, the GDPR is very, everyone knows the GDPR in Europe, and every company worldwide that want to do business in Europe and has some business activity over there. And security certification, for example, ISO 27001, this is much more relevant for the European market. So we can definitely see companies that aim to do sales, to make sales in Europe, will seek for the ISO 27001. They will at least going to start with it, while companies that aiming to sell in the United States will go more into the SOC 2, type 2 examination. Now, many companies will go for both because they have both customers, both in Europe and in the United States. And most likely they will also need to follow with the GDPR regarding privacy. And, you know, this is really just, it's growing and growing all the time, because if a company is actually, as like their product is in the healthcare industry, they might need to follow up also with the HIPAA or high trust certification. If they're doing payments processing, they might need to follow with the PCI DSS. And it's growing because we soon, I believe personally, that we're going to see this also based not only by regions or by industries, but also based on technologies. We see a big adoption and new ventures in the blockchain, in banking, in insurance. We see autonomous vehicles. We see AI engines that can autonomously get a decision that have implication about people regular life. So all of this requiring to build trust, requiring compliance. Compliance is usually lagging behind technology, but it's closing the gaps. It's closing the gaps, and every startup in beginning of his way need to also consider as part of his business plan which market he plan to penetrate, and then you need to understand what are the relevant close regulations and market required standards in order for him to succeed and make sales and enable sales in this market.
It's helped me understand the space a bit better. And I think, whilst don't ask me to name the companies, I have seen a small kind of explosion of more SaaS-based compliance companies and products emerge in the last 12 months, including Scytale, of course.
Yeah.
And tell us a bit then about like the last 12 months. What have you been focused on, and what has the company been focused on to help build and grow the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. In the beginning, I was focusing on hiring good people. Beginning it was technology people, CTO and developers and engineers, building the product. I do have background in information systems, but I needed someone that has a real experience working and developing products and companies. So establishing the first R&D team, that was my first challenge. And afterwards also writing the product requirement documentation and to understand what we're gonna do. I knew what I knew for me, why that was my experience and my intuition. I understand the benchmark in the market. I made lots of customers interviews, and accumulating all of this information, I put it on paper and actually start writing and designing how I want the product will look like, with diagrams, with text, with everything, with user story and epics and etc. That was the first challenge. Now, I continued taking customers, but not everything was automated back in the days. So I had to back it up with some manual work that was done by information security experts. So I needed to find those experts that also believe in our vision. So it was in the beginning transform, let's say, a consulting firm into a digitally technology company. And that was the first step, finding the people, establishing the R&D. Afterwards, keep finding customers and give them the best service that we can, both through technology and our advisory expertise. And basically gaining their trust and taking the approach that every customer is like our first customer, and we do commit for his success. We don't only want to give him something that might help him through his compliance journey, but we do very aim ourselves for results. And we understand his timeline, what his business needs, and what's right for him. So I think in the first 12 months, the beginning, it's definitely the product, establishing the R&D team, and afterwards the product team. And afterwards, in my case, it was the compliance success team. And We keep understanding and implementing procedures and routines and see what works for your company. You know, there are endless ways a company can work, and I just got to see more and more possibilities, options, and that was the main focus in the first 12 months. We actually didn't, I personally didn't aim to get dozens of customers in the first year. I thought maybe only 2 or 3 design partners, but it just seems to work, and it actually helped us to become better, because it wasn't the case that I just imagined something and then I created it and someone needs to test it and give me his feedback. Everything was done in real time. I get feedback on a daily basis from real customer using the product. So that was priceless. And I think this is one of the reasons why customer love our product logics and the business logic we try to implement to make it as simple as possible for people that need to go for security compliance, but they don't have the time. They don't have sometimes the experience or the knowledge. And in many cases, they also don't really have the will into learning in depth about compliance, internal controls, and testing procedure of controls, and etc. So that was really helpful.
Can you give me, I know you have sort of, given through some of the conversation, but a specific example of one thing that worked really well and one thing that maybe didn't work so well that you tried, in the last 12 months, whether it's like in product or marketing or sales, I don't really mind, but something, as a business that you tried and something that really worked and something that didn't.
All right. Yeah, that's a very good question. So let me think. I think that in a sense of maybe R&D, we try to narrow, we try to focus and do many things in a short period of time. And afterwards, it's got back to us because, this is like the 20-80% rule. So we did 20%, which was essential for the product to operate very fast, so we could bring fast value for the customer. But on the other end, the amount of bugs that we received after multiple dozens of companies using the product just hold us back through actually achieving what we planned in a certain period of time. And so understanding what is critical for the customer, narrow it down to the minimum valuable product, and try to get to some baseline, which a customer would be willing to pay on this product or feature, and then work around it, because you need to bring fast value in the beginning. And you also need to focus, don't spread around, put in too many features, because too many customers asking for too many different stuff. It can be different integrations, different core features. So you should really test and understand what you want yourself. And also I think that the fact that we got a director of product that she was a domain expert in the field, and she had the technology instincts. So it really helped. It was a big question in the beginning. I was thinking if I want to bring a domain expert in which I trust, but without the product experience, or whether I prefer to bring a very experienced product, but I will need to teach him the whole domain. So personally, I believed in the first option. It worked for me, but every company, I would guess it's different. So that's regarding this, how it worked for me.
And if we look for the next 12 months, what are, let's say, some of the things that you're focusing on, key strategic initiatives that you're focusing looking ahead at the future?
So yeah, that's very interesting, because now we are also starting with marketing and sales. We do want to build a scale company, and in order for us, allowing us to actually take care of hundreds of customers at the same time, giving them both great compliance success advisory and giving them the best technology with the minimum amount of bugs. So keep focusing on the product and on the technology. That will be the number one priority, and keep looking at our customers' feedback. and continuously implementing this in the product, because this is really the only reason for our existence. If customer would love our product, if our product is going to be great, they will want to keep with us because they trust us. And if that's not going to be the case, it's going to be a big problem for us. So keep focusing on the product, and also spreading into new market, into the United States and the European market, to the United Kingdom. And this is a place that I'm high looking at it. Also plan to visit in June in London. So I would say that that's going to be the second, like the main focus on the next 12 months.
Very cool. Well, do let us know when you're in London, and hopefully we can meet up in person. For sure, would be good. For you as a startup CEO, what has been your, like, say, biggest challenges, would you say, in being a startup CEO?
Finding great people that you can give them the missions that you needed to do before you brought them, but finding those people that you personally feel that can do way better work than you do if you will give your best in their role. It's very challenging. I'm not saying that I the best in everything, but I'm giving my heart and really try to think out of the box and make things just work in a very strict deadlines. And you need to find those people that you can trust them to lead the way. Just show them the direction, and trust that they will know how to navigate and take you there. This is critical thing in every startup, I think. Second is time. I needed to get decisions fast. And decision is on a daily basis, and from multiple departments, from marketing, sales, R&D, product, compliance support, and etc. Finance. It can be examining potential vendors. You want to examine a few vendors on the one end and get the best price and best package that you can. On the other end, if it's going to take too much time, that might be a constraint for the business development, because you might miss some things in the future. So I say you need to try fast, get fast decision, and if you're wrong, try to fix them fast. But don't take too much time just to make the decision. So decide fast and fix fast. That will be my second advice.
Very cool. And what about the most rewarding or enjoyable thing about being a CEO so far?
It's a very tricky question, because that might be one day that you are in the top of the world, everything works best, the future is just amazing, you signed a few new customers, you get in great reviews, and another day that it's totally the opposite. Everything is crashing, too many bugs, customers might have some complaints. So, finding these small moments in which you can just stop, just enjoy the ride, and say, I try to really do something that I believe in, bringing my vision, changing the world in the way that suits for me, and how I see that the world could be a little bit better for some kind of people in the realm of security and compliance, and actually building trust and enable them to thrive in this world of amazing ideas in the that they just get seen more and more. So I think that is one of the things. Just stop, breathe, and enjoy the ride, because it's very demanding. You're going to have pressure from multiple places, from customers, from employees, from vendors, from investors. And so, managing the pressure and believe and be just optimistic that everything's going to work out, and keep work hard and play out.
What do you do to improve yourself as a CEO?
I try always to ask questions and not just speak, and to see what other people think, and maybe I might be learn something from them if you brought the right people. So you definitely can learn from them. So listen and ask questions. That will be number one. Second, I will say books and mentors, and books because there are some, and there is a great book. It's called The Hard Things, about the hard things. And actually, you can learn a lot from other people's journey. So books always helpful, and also mentors, people that you trust them, that maybe you need to develop your sales organization, but you never did sales before. So, this is just understanding how the salary works, how target works, timelines, how do you what is your strategy into penetrating to a certain market? And you will need to understand from everything, in the sales strategy, in the marketing strategy, in the product strategy. So, just try to get at least, let's say, 40% of the information that you can accumulate in order to make the best decision that you can. So find those guys that you trust them and that you feel that they are very experienced, and try to harness them to be part of your journey. That will be great.
Well, that's some great advice to finish on, Meiran, and plenty of great advice throughout the conversation. Where can people find Scytale and you online?
Yeah, so on Google, of course, on Google and LinkedIn and G2 and everywhere, just type Scytale AI, and you will get to our website. You will be able to read much more about our product, and also just resources that can actually, we try to be informative and educational for also startups and entrepreneurs in the beginning of their way that maybe want to do it themselves. We just want to bring our insights and our knowledge that they will be able to use it. Maybe it's gonna save them some time, put some logics and make some sense into all of these compliance, security and security. And maybe we can also work together. We're always happy to give an advice and helping people.
Very good. Well, Meiran Galis, co-founder and CEO of Scytale, thank you so much for being a guest on the SaaS Revolution Show today.
Thank you very much, Alex. It was a pleasure.